Hello, everybody. Welcome from the rest of the internet. This is Mark Michael, CEO, co-founder of DevHub. I am joined by Eric Willis, our lead web developer here at DevHub. And this is a series where we talk about the happenings around tech, sometimes websites, sometimes not. Eric pinged me a couple of days ago. He's like, let's do one on Google losing Chrome in the antitrust suit. I was like, anytime I can hear Eric's perspective, because I feel like he's right a lot, it was like, let's hop on and do it. So what is your hot take?
Thanks, Mark. So just high level, right? So basically the DOJ is talking about having Google sell Chrome. Right now it's estimated to be 20 billion would be like the price
That's
on
it?
that. That's it? Oh, I'm glad you say that because that's kind of the perspective I want to get from you on this call in general is like, one, is that a good deal? For what you're getting? Uh, just kind of like a little bit of numbers, right? So like Google or Chrome makes up 60% of the web. It's what I use, it's what we use. We use a lot of other Google website tools, like page speed and things like that. Um, you know, Google, in my opinion, has done a lot to push modern web forward in a way that is good. So my little spiel on this is like anyone who remembered doing even responsive web design in the early days, you would bang your head against the wall because Internet Explorer did it different than Safari, then did it from Firefox, whatever, everything was different. So you had to do a bunch of like usability, testing across devices, right? It made browser stack very popular. Where I feel like Google becoming so ubiquitous with Chrome really pushed a lot of standards forward. Uh, that just made the web better in general. And maybe that would have happened eventually, but it happened a lot faster because they made up 60% of the thing or web. And therefore, like, yes, are there bad aspects of that? Sure. But did it make the web a better place? And will it, if Google loses it, will it continue to make the web a better place? And I would argue no, I don't think it would. Uh, I feel like you're looking at it the wrong way. If you think taking Chrome away from Google is good, because they point, a lot of the big reason why they point to it is because like the ad integration with the browser, right? So like them having access to the browser gives their analytics tools more leverage that then they use to sell ads, and they made like $68 billion last year in ads, which Chrome enables to some extent, but I don't know. I just personally think it is not good for the web. It's not good for just web browsers. I don't think it like probably fixes any of Google's like money making aspects of it. They'll still have their GTMs. Like, are they gonna make them get rid of those? Which is what really is like doing a lot of this like analytics tracking stuff, not necessarily the browser. Uh, so yeah, I mean, what is your, I guess, first take on it? And then I really want like your business perspective on whether you think like $20 billion for basically taking on this, code base is worth it and you can make money on it.
Okay, I'm going to say it like this. And maybe not the opinion of DevHub, the opinion of Mark Michael, a guy on planet Earth. Honestly, it freaks me out when the government gets involved with technology, because like who actually understands what they're actually I mean, like, do you remember the whole Facebook trial stuff and the questions that Zuckerberg was getting were like so, like, again, I don't know, maybe the DOJ, like, they have people who are like technically proficient and understand Google, like who, again, I haven't done my homework as much to understand, like, so again, by the way, I did pull up again, like, so what are the proposed remedies, right? Divestiture of Chrome. DOJ recommends Google is compelled to sell its Chrome browser, blah, blah, blah. Google's control over web browsing. Like, I mean, it's pretty broad because, again, to your point, like what does that actually mean? Restrictions on default search agreements, like that one, like it could be straightforward, I guess.
Yeah, but
Right?
see what's interesting about that. So
Right.
like, is Mozilla, who's one of people would argue a competitor to Chrome, 81% of their revenue comes from their agreement with Google to default Google search in the Mozilla browser. So if the DOJ does that, they basically just nuked Mozilla. Has nothing to do with Chrome, right? Or anything like that. So that's like, again, I'm so glad you said that because that was like my feeling, and we experience this a lot, like especially websites, right? And like what it is and what it does and how it all works is confusing and hard. And the government coming in and blanketly saying like you need to sell this just tells me they don't know jack shit about what's actually going on, and
Well,
that
jack shit.
they're better regulating it because then they have to show what the actual issue is instead of just being like, well, they own the browser, so therefore they have a monopoly on what?
So
You
the
know?
divestiture, the restrictions, and then the last one, it looks like it says data sharing mandates. So the DOJ proposes that Google be required to share its search data with competitors at minimal cost. This initiative is designed to level the playing field by granting rival search engines access to essential data, thereby enhancing their ability to compete effectively.
But see, what's weird about that is like, again, are we talking the browser, which is Chrome, or are we talking Google search, right? Because this to me is like confusing it. Like, yes, I understand that when you search in the bar in Chrome, it uses a Google search, and yet they're just two different things. And like, the Chrome is just the tool that you need to access the web, and forcing them to sell it just doesn't make any sense to me from like just a logic standpoint. Like,
So real quick, so it looks like Google's plans to present its counter arguments by December 20th this month, 2024. So we'll see what that's all about. And then the next timeline for any type of decision looks like it's sometime in April 2025. And with the final ruling supposedly as of right now set for August 2025. Again, I mean, if I had to, I'll throw it out there as a bet. Nothing burger. Nothing burger.
let's see how much they grease the next administration already.
Like, I think it's like it'll be a significant maybe fine. I don't even know how you would fine them.
But that's where, like, for them to find them, they need to actually show what the anti-competitive nature of this is. You know what I mean? Because that's the part where it's just like hard for me. Like, yes, I understand Chrome is there, and yet, but them not being specific about what Google is using Chrome for in this monopoly, from what I can tell, just I don't know. It just feels like a why not bring up YouTube? Because like to me, you have two sides, right? You have like the ad information side, which is like what Chrome and GTM and all that stuff is, and then you have the ad display side, which is YouTube or like that. Like I can understand wanting to separate those two things from a single entity, but then why not talk about YouTube at all? You know what I mean? Oh, which to me is like if you take Chrome and you take YouTube, if you just spun Chrome off, how is it going to make money? Like how is it going to do anything to make it relevant to keep up the standards that it does with webs, or keeping, those kinds of things going? Because like Chrome itself would lose all of its leverage. So then why would anyone use it anymore? And then in my mind, that just throws the actual web into chaos, because then it's like, well, who's using what? Does Microsoft switch back to using their own stuff? What about Safari? So why do you let Apple do it, but not Google? You know what I mean? And then obviously the entanglements of Mozilla with what the DOJ wants to get rid of. So we're talking at least two browsers getting nuked. That only leaves two, one of which uses Chromium. You know what I mean? So like, again, did they even do a competitive landscape of like what this is, or, because it's already open source code. Like anyone can build a Chrome browser with Chrome as a competitor. So like again, what that to me again is just, it's like, why sell it? That doesn't make any sense.
Again, and again, in two things. One, in some respect, it's like too little, too late, right? Like if you really wanted to do something like this was like 10 years ago. In some respects, I would even argue at the height. I think again, I know what's it called? Chat GPT is not a browser, but nonetheless, I think
Because the
overall
problem is like,
consumer, all of it is changing. I mean, I know the Apple, iPhone is their thing. They have Safari, whatever. I do think in the new world that we're sort of heading into, I actually think there'll be more and more actually options for consumers, but we'll see. That's my slight bet. I don't know.
I mean, then we need like an actual web standard. Like this just goes to like a whole nother
I
thing,
don't
because
think
like you
so.
have like Mozilla is like, well, we're not going to implement those things because we don't like them.
I
And
don't know.
Safari, I have so many problems with building sites with Safari, doing very unique things to their themselves that clients believe to be issues sometimes. I have it pointed out to me all the time where someone's like, why does this zoom in when I click on this input? Well, that's what Safari does if it's below 16 pixels on an input, dude. I'm sorry.
Right.
So like,
But that's why
but if they split it up, yes. But then if the web becomes 10% or 10% of web traffic goes through 10 different browsers, in my mind, that makes my job hell. Because I was watching a video today. They just implemented a new standard for how to style select boxes in contact forms, which is huge. But what happens if only 30% of these browsers implement that? Then I have to do fallbacks. I can't implement the whole design. Like that's what Chrome solved essentially up to this point of like, hey, we make up 60% of the web, so you need to like do these things, right? And so it creates that standard.
Honestly, this is bad. What was it called before Bing?
Internet Explorer,
Internet Explorer, yeah.
Internet Explorer, and
That
then
was
Bing, and now it's Edge, which is Chromium.
that's keeping up with Internet Explorer standards, in 2007, 8, 9, 10 was
it sucked.
Wild.
And if they throw us into that again,
I still think
over this.
Again, I still think the overall web experience from the consumer end is changing. It just hasn't changed. And again, I keep writing, it's to me, it's more about like the data standard, and how that data is being propagated to either create a website in a browsing environment or create a experience within VR, within, my ear, within whatever, probably not a watch, but nonetheless, like the other formats that still have not taken hold is where like I always just like, I mean, again, I still shocked that we're talking about websites in 2024. Like I'm always just like, what? I remember, again, and we've seen it from Flash to today, and it's just rounded corners to all the different weird things that have happened, and it's still the source of truth. If someone wants to know like what is up, I don't care if you're looking for a hotel and you just want to it's like you can see all the prices and whatnot on Expedia and all these other intermediaries. But then if you really want to know what the hotel looks like, you type in their domain name to be like, oh, okay, that is a legit hotel, And so like, I don't know. And again, like even you just said like the whole form box thing, design that we do. I don't know, but I still think that the overall web is changing, and so I don't think it's even a browser thing anymore. I think that's like weird. I think it's something to have to do with data, but I don't know what.
You
I don't
still
know.
have to access that data through some sort of user interface, right? And that is what Chrome is for HTML and CSS, right? Essentially in JavaScript or whatever. Like that is what a browser is. And this is where like it is not a money-making thing. It is a free software that people need to access the internet. It is not something that they can just tell them to get rid of, and think that that is going to be good for consumers in general. And I just, again, too, like, all right, so it's $20 billion, Mark. Like, you spend that $20 billion, like, how do you even pretend to make that money back? You know what I mean? Without doing exactly what Google's doing now, and then having anti-competitive practices. You know what I mean?
But what is the 20 billion? Where did you get that from?
That was just like the estimated price tag, essentially.
Yeah, I don't know. It's got to be like 100 billion. I mean, I don't even know, but it's got to be. If you're talking about 60% of browsing starts within Chrome.
Yeah, that was it was a Bloomberg headline.
Oh,
20 billion
really?
if judge orders.
Yeah,
So.
I mean, I'm reading this right here from. Is this the New Yorker?
I have more notes for this podcast than I've ever had.
Oh, really? Because it says the company's market value decreased by over 100 billion following the DOJ's proposal. I would just basically be like, that's the value of Chrome.
Again, it's a bunch of lawyers and investment bankers thinking they know how websites work. Again, right? We run into all this all the time. Like, people don't understand how websites work, right? And so I just
out when anyone tries. The two things that always scare me the most. Like, I have a rule with my parents. We own a tech. I will not touch any of their technology. But the two things that always scare me are when human intent is not factored into like what someone did, right? And so it's like if I'm just literally reading my text messages to somebody, they're like, oh, you sound like a dick, or you sound weird, or you sound crazy, but it's like if you're talking to a friend who knows, it's like, no, that's just friendly. And it's like when people try to interpret that freaks me out. The second thing is obviously technology. And so like when I think about, like, again, lawyers, and again, I don't know, maybe DOJ does have people who are, technically proficient, but it always freaks me out when it's like again, I just remember the Zuckerbergs, it was so, to me, like, cringe, because they just don't understand anything. Like, it's like you're having this guy who's like 80,
like, they don't even know what a website is technically,
right.
Like, from a technical basis, what a website is, how it works, how it's like tracking stuff, yada yada yada. It's just so, again, like, if the issue is like the data tracking that leads to their ads is the issues, from what I can tell, then, like, what about GTM? What about all the other things? Because again, to me, what it sounds like is they had a really smart person do like a presentation on like the issue, like the kind of like things that are bad about it, and then lawyers and people who don't understand that interpret it and then wrote the other bit, right? And so, like, missed probably the point that the person put it all together was making, and they just kind of like, oh yeah, Chrome, the browser, that's the entry point. And it's like, yeah, but why not just regulate what they can? Like, again, making them give out the search data for a reasonable, that's not selling Chrome. Let them do that. You know what I mean? Like, the selling the Chrome part, I just thought was such a weird, I don't know, doesn't solve anything, only makes things worse, right? Kind of thing. Because, like, in my mind, I guess, like, my doomer scenario on this is like Google gets spun off into its own thing. People just legit stop using it because it stops, like, getting, it has a bug sometime or something. It doesn't get pushed out. Something weird happens. It starts getting used less. People start using like other apps, and then, like, they don't implement standards, or there's no base web standard that websites are being built on. Because that, to me, is the only angle I'm really taking. I don't want to go back to that decade ago where I had to write like IE7 specific CSS and then IE8 specific, blah, blah, because it was 10%. Where, like, now some of these browsers make up less than 1%. So, like, no offense, but I don't care. And more than likely it works anyway. Because I'm testing the ones that matter. But basically, once Chromium doesn't become the standard anymore, which is probably what happens if Google loses Chrome, because no one's going to be able to make money on it. It's just going to flounder for years and then die. And then, someone will fork it and build something on top of it and take 20% market share. But then, I don't know. What about the Google phone? So is Google not allowed to put their own browser on their own phone? Like, if they tell them like on the Pixel, if they tell them that, then, like, do you go and tell Apple they can't do that? Safari can't be the default. You're going to make someone always download a browser every time they get a new phone because it doesn't come on with one stock. Like again, it's just not thinking through the user scenarios. If they go through with this, is just really stupid. You know what I mean? Or the cascades of it. It's just so dumb. It's dumb.
Here's my bet. Doing a little bit more, like literally like 5 minutes more research while you're talking, is it won't. The headlines will come out like there was some ramification for Google, but it will be nothing of the proposed remedies, because it's like my gut. This is just purely my gut, and like again, I love doing these videos because I rather
That's what it's about.
we'll be right or we'll be wrong. Who cares? It doesn't matter. But there's a record of two people talking about an issue. I think, like I said, it'll be like Google Find or Google. You know, there will be no such thing as like a forced sale. I think it'll be like, again, like some version of a fine or a issue a credit, because again, like one of the headlines here is like Judge Mehta ruled that Google's monopoly allowed it to inflate the prices for some search ads, right? And so, like in some respects, it's like, okay, well, whoever was affected during that time period, it's like, you know, settle it for $5 billion, right? Split that money to everybody which by the way, they're just going to use that money to go spend it in Google again. But it's like something, it's going to be a symbolic win for the government and ultimately not a loss for Google. I don't know how else to say that.
I personally think it'll just disappear. No headlines. There won't be, because the next administration will probably basically just ignore it. Because again, it's just, I don't know. We'll see. Or they go after them again for YouTube, or like the things that Google owns that actually matter. You know what I mean? Like that's, again, it's just so like, why not GTM? Why not go after them for the tag manager stuff? You know, because that's the big analytics side. Why not go after YouTube? What about Gmail? You know, all these huge products that Google, why, of all the pieces that Google has, Chrome has to be the smallest one that like they just do because they have to. Like you have to have a browser for it to work. You know what I mean? Because that's how you connect to the internet. You know, again, the basics here. But ignoring like the stuff that like truly matters in my mind. I don't know. Maybe I'm like totally wrong on that. But I just,
we'll see how this video will be posted, and
I can't wait.
we'll kind of see how it ages. You know, I guess we won't know till August
At least
2025.
April. Well, definitely, this will be our first podcast where we like come back to it to see what happens. Anything else you want to say on this, Mark? Otherwise, I have one more question for you.
Go.
What's your tech Christmas present this year?
For
just any loved one, right? Do you have any like special tech gifts? This is always something, at least personally, I try and do every year. I do it for our white elephant.
I guess, but like a technology.
Sure. It doesn't have to be like a physical thing.
I guess I'll say one kind of thing is I went shopping for a TV, right? And I think there was like a weird era of TVs, like call it the last 5 years, where I just like didn't care, right? I mean, again, the last time I cared was there was two instances. One from my childhood to have like a flat screen, whether that was a Wega or like the big projection style TVs. And then when like actual flat screens became a thing and it was exciting, you know, plasma versus LED. And then like they just introduced like a bunch of really little things that were supposedly like these. At some point it just didn't matter. You just wanted a certain size. But it seems like there is some version of the tech that has evolved at least enough in the last like 10 years, 5 years, where one, the cost of it, I would say the cost of a really good 55 to 65 inch TV is right around, call it $700, which again, I paid almost that much for like a 30-inch one back in the day. So I don't know. Basically, I'm going to treat myself to a TV, and I will say that probably the first time I don't buy like a Samsung, but one of the other brands like a Hisense or a TCL or whatnot, because it feels like I don't know, I hate to say like their marketing was better, you know, at least if you go to like a Best Buy. So
I still think
technology wise,
LG is the best.
and
That's
then
what I have. I bought a new LG last year.
right. I mean, yeah, I mean, I almost did too, because I actually we have one in somewhere, but and my new sort of hot take is I actually don't want a car right now.
I'm with you on that. I still want to come out to Arizona to try those Waymos.
I just think it's like it's so like, again, living in the city, you definitely don't need one. I still think living elsewhere, you'd probably do. I just feel like owning a car at this point, it crossed over from I used to think, I would say 5-10 years ago, and before that, obviously too, owning a certain type of car was a version of like a status symbol, right? Oh, you drive Mercedes. Oh, you drive BMW. Oh. I think people have gotten, Tesla has just decimated the auto industry. I don't even know at what level, but I would say to make it all almost like, I mean, it's a no brainer. Do you have electric?
No, not yet. I haven't
So
found one.
no, I mean, look, a lease. I mean, we should end this video and then keep talking. But anyway, I'll just say a lease on a Model Y. This will definitely date this video. A lease on a Model Y today is $299. Like, are you smoking crack? You're gonna go buy a new Toyota RAV4 for 38 to 40K, and you can go lease a brand new self-driving Model Y for $299. Like, never have to pay for gas again. Like, it's all the things. I mean, it's just
hey, it's a RAV4 hybrid. Okay, I get higher gas mileage.
but how much was it?
Well, because I did lease and then purchase. Regret every second of it. Wish I never did it. But at the time when the lease was up, there's just nothing going on. Interest rates sucked. I didn't really have an option, and that's where, like, I'm with you. I would rather I hate cars. I hate driving on roads.
It feels so foreign. I mean, I don't know when that switched. I know when it switched. Last Christmas when I was driving my entire family and they're yelling in the back seat, my parents, my aunt, my uncle, and I'm sitting here thinking about what the F are they talking about? And then at the same time, I'm like hurtling down the road at like 70 plus miles an hour, thinking about how hungry I am, how I just want to get home, and like a million things. And meanwhile, there's other cars whizzing by me, and I've been riding Waymo around, Google's company. That's how we're talking. And
wait, I don't believe it's technically Google anymore, right?
it's not under Alphabet.
It was just something that, well, I guess, but so that's the thing too. It's like, can Alphabet buy Chrome? It's not Google.
I mean, there's people smarter than us that like the whole even breakup of like whatever it was, Standard Oil or whatever back in the day, that somehow like they all still owned it all, like Texaco and
sure. I mean that, and this is where, like, yeah. I'm done talking about it.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
Let me end it and then send me the recording and let's we'll post it and see what it does.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, for my Christmas, I got a Steam Deck finally. I don't know if you know what a Steam Deck is.
I love that company. I mean, they built a huge ass company with under 500 employees. At least that's what it was.
And Seattle based, well, Redmond based.
Yeah. What's the CEO's name? I used to be really into it.
Gabe Newell.
Yeah,
I believe.
Founder, CEO.
Still does right by the people.
Right. I mean, it's like there are good companies. Again, and I always to me, that was like a really great model, even for us. It was like, oh, sick. Oh, so you can build a really big company with not that many people and treat everyone right. Like you don't have to be convinced by corporate dollars.
And you can come out with an actual product that people like because you did it the right way. And now everyone copies you. That's where I love the Steam Deck, I guess. And
well, let me know how it actually is, because again, I remember, I mean, that's like all those like they always show like the trailers of what it can do, right? Mm-hmm. Of like video games and whatnot. This was created for blah blah blah. And so
see if it actually runs good. I will. All right, thanks, Mark. Thanks for talking with me.
Cool. Send me the recording.
Will do. See you, bud.
All right, see you.